Welcome to Congress in Context. We're here to give you a real shortcut to understanding the frantic legislative push that happened just before the Thanksgiving break in November 2025.
We have been deep in the congressional record, pulling out what you really need to know. We're talking bills that were signed, major legislation that landed on the president's desk, and, some surprising political moves that are going to set the tone for the rest of the year.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the big stuff, the legislative heavy lifting. What officially got over the finish line?
Well, on November 21st, the Speaker signed a whole stack of enrolled bills. The first one that jumps out is H.R. 1512, which is an amendment to the Taiwan Assurance Act.
Okay, so this is foreign policy. What does it do?
It basically forces the State Department to conduct periodic reviews and update its guidelines on Taiwan. It's Congress signaling it wants to stay very vigilant on that front.
Got it. And what about here at home? I saw S 2392 in there, which seemed like a pretty big deal.
A huge deal. This is the one that increases compensation rates for veterans with service-connected disabilities and also for survivors.
And it takes effect when?
December 1st. So that is direct, immediate financial relief for millions of families. A really tangible win.
That's great to see. And then there was something a bit more everyday, S 260. It was about breastfeeding and the TSA.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of Congress addressing those small but important quality of life issues. It just requires the hygienic handling of breast milk and baby formula by TSA security.
As someone who's traveled with kids, I can tell you that is not a small issue. That's a massive relief for parents.
Exactly. But the really interesting one from a process standpoint was SJ Res 80.
This was the one about the National Petroleum Reserve in Alaska. It sounds technical, but the mechanism here, the SJ-Res part, is what matters, right?
Right, said exactly. It stands for Senate Joint Resolution, and it's used for disapproval points directly to the Congressional Review Act, the CRA.
Okay, for anyone who isn't familiar, break that down for us. Why is the CRA such a powerful tool?
Well, the CRA gives Congress a fast-track way to overturn a new federal regulation. The key is that it bypasses the normal Senate filibuster rules. So it's a powerful way for the legislative branch to basically nullify a policy decision made by the executive branch.
So it's not just making a new law, it's actively erasing an old rule.
Precisely. In this case, Congress reversed an administrative policy on resource management in Alaska. It's a major ideological statement about legislative power over regulatory agencies.
Yeah, it definitely draws a clear line in the sand. So while those bills were getting finalized, another batch was being sent to the president for his signature, right?
Yes. The period between November 19th and the 25th saw a flurry of activity, and it was a real mix of priorities.
What was at the top of that list?
H.R. 4405, presented on the 19th. This one is fascinating. It requires the Attorney General to release all DOJ documents and records related to Jeffrey Epstein.
Wow. That's Congress putting immense public pressure directly on a very sensitive DOJ matter.
It really is. Then you have H.R. 2483, which is a crucial reauthorization of programs for opioid use disorder prevention, treatment, and recovery. That's billions in federal support for communities still grappling with the crisis.
So public transparency on one hand and public health infrastructure on the other. What else was in that pre-holiday push?
Two more focused bills. H.R. 695 increases the special pension for Medal of Honor recipients, which is, a way of recognizing the highest level of valor.
Okay.
And then there's H.R. 998, which deals with the IRS. It basically requires the IRS to provide clearer information on those math and clerical error notices. A small change, but it could reduce a lot of headaches for regular taxpayers.
All right, let's shift from the bills themselves to the machinery of Congress. There was a big administrative change in the House.
There was. The Chief Administrative Officer, Catherine Spindor, announced her resignation. And to make sure things like IT, payroll, all the logistics keep running smoothly, the Speaker immediately appointed Ann Binstead to take over. It's that foundational work that lets everything else happen.
And in that machinery, the committee reports are where you see the next battle starting to form. I noticed one bill, H.R. 4312, had reports from two different committees.
That's a flashing red light.
Why is that?
That's the bill on name, image, and likeness NIL for student athletes. The fact that both the Energy and Commerce Committee and the Education and Workforce Committee filed reports tells you everything.
It's a turf war.
It's a massive turf war. It touches on labor rights, commerce, competition. Both committees think they have jurisdiction, and that signals a huge fight ahead over who gets to regulate the future of college sports.
And beyond NIL, there was a whole cluster of bills around energy and natural resources.
Yes, a clear pattern. H.R. 3616 and H.R. 3632 on energy reliability, plus H.R. 5556, which prohibits restricting lead ammunition on federal lands. It shows a very strong focus on domestic resource extraction and access right now.
So for anyone focused on climate policy, this suggests that conservation efforts that might limit that access, they're facing an uphill battle.
A very steep climb based on what's moving out of committee. This reflects the majority's priorities quite clearly.
Let's connect that to geopolitics.
Huh.
I saw H.R. 1531 came out of the Financial Services Committee. This one targets China.
It does. It seeks to exclude representatives from the People's Republic of China from certain banking organizations if there's a notice of a specific threat. It's Congress viewing financial access not just as an economic issue, but as a national security risk.
Speaking of huge geopolitical moves, an executive communication came over from the White House that seemed, well, monumental.
Oh, EC 2310 was huge. This was the president transmitting his intent to designate the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as a major non-NATO ally, or MNNA.
Okay, what does that designation actually do? What's the strategic thinking behind doing this now?
MNA status gives a country preferential access to U.S. military equipment and cooperative defense research. It's a deep, long-term security commitment without a formal treaty. It's about regional stability, it's a balance against Iran, and it signals to the entire world that the U.S. views Saudi Arabia as a foundational partner in the Middle East.
A major, major strategic shift. At the same time, Congress is dealing with these huge global issues. It's also getting regulatory updates that affect millions of Americans' daily lives.
Right. We saw two major final rules come in from CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services.
And these are about payment systems, which sounds incredibly dry, but it's not.
Not at all. One rule covers end-stage renal disease, think kidney dialysis. The other covers hospital outpatient payments. They're both prospective payment systems.
So what does that mean for a patient?
It means CMS sets a fixed rate for care in advance. The hospital or clinic gets paid that amount, regardless of what they actually spend. It's designed to control costs for taxpayers.
But the risk, I assume, is that providers might cut corners to stay profitable.
That's the inherent tension. It's efficiency versus quality of care. These rules literally determine how billions of dollars are spent and can affect everything from staffing at a dialysis center to the technology a hospital buys. They are vital.
From these complex rules to, well, the more personal side of Congress, the extensions of remarks section always shows such a fascinating contrast.
It really does. You see the heart of civic life right next to the sharpest political elbows.
Absolutely. I was really moved by the tribute to Marine Staff Sergeant Carl Buscema, a veteran of the Battle of Chosin Reservoir in Korea. Just an incredible story of valor.
And the honor for Lucille Hoback-Boggess, who helped establish the National D-Day Memorial in Bedford, Virginia. Her two brothers, the Bedford Boys, died on Omaha Beach. Her story is just. It's a profound link between local service and national history.
But then, on the flip side of that unity, you have a very sharp critique from Representative McCollum. She used her remarks to go after a House resolution that had passed earlier.
Yes, one, condemning socialism in all its forms. Her argument was that the resolution was, in her words, politically sloppy and insulting to our allies.
Because it inadvertently condemns them.
Exactly. She pointed out that a blanket condemnation of socialism effectively condemns key NATO allies like Denmark, Norway, Spain, and Sweden, which have mainstream social democratic parties.
So you have this incredible contrast. On one page, you're honoring veterans who fought alongside allies, and on the next, you're condemning the political systems of those very same allies.
It shows that for some, the domestic political message is more important than the diplomatic nuance. It's a fascinating tension.
So what does this all mean for what's coming next? The calendar doesn't stop.
Nope, it picks right back up. The House Rules Committee is meeting Monday, December 1st, and on the docket is that student-athlete NIL bill, H.R. 4312.
So that turf war we talked about is about to hit the House floor.
It is, and we're also seeing the start of new legislative trends. There's a whole cluster of new bills focused on online safety, privacy, and artificial intelligence.
AI is definitely on their radar.
Clearly, H.R. 6306, for example, aims to increase penalties for financial crimes using AI. Congress is trying to catch up to the technology.
And finally, there's one bill I have to ask about, H.R. 6308. It's a bit different.
Ah, yes. The bill from Mrs. Norton of D.C. It would require the Library of Congress to install a stained glass panel of the District of Columbia seal in the main reading room.
It seems symbolic, but there's a deep point being made here, isn't there?
A very deep one. Her rationale is that D.C. residents pay federal taxes, they serve in wars, they have all the obligations of citizenship. The library's reading room already has seals for the states and territories that existed when it was built.
So this is the D.C. statehood and representation fight, just in miniature.
It's the whole debate packaged in a stained glass window. It argues that if you shoulder the burdens of the country, you deserve the same recognition as everyone else.
What a week. We've seen bills hitting the president's desk, a major assertion of congressional power with the CRA, a huge geopolitical shift with Saudi Arabia, and the essential grinding work of just keeping the institution running.
It really shows you the depth and breadth of what happens in just a few days. So I guess the question it leaves us with is this. When Congress fights over something like a piece of stained glass, are they just fighting over a symbol? Or is that symbol really the tip of a much deeper structural iceberg about what American citizenship and representation truly mean?
That is definitely something for all of us to think about. And if you want to track any of these bills yourself, like H.R. 6308 or the big veterans and opioid bills, remember you can use resources like congress.gov.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.